Hey guys, welcome back. It's Josh with the Financial Advisor Car Guy. This week I'm going to share with you an awesome tool for valuing your car. I'm on a bunch of different forums on social media, and a very common question is, hey, I'm thinking about selling my car, what's it worth? And stuff varies, right? I mean, if I were to sell my 68 Mustang, I wouldn't even know where to price it. If I were to sell my R8, I have a little bit better of an idea, but the Mustang is especially hard because there's such a wide variety of things out there. There are, true project cars, there are full frame-off restorations, pro touring cars, total resto mods. I mean, you name it. There's so many different variations of my Mustang. Some hardtops, some convertible, some coupes, or some fastbacks. There's a million different ways to turn it. And again, common question is, how do I value my car if I'm going to sell it or if I need to insure it, right? So I found an incredible resource on the internet that is totally free. And I want to share that with you guys today. So that's the topic. I've got my iPad right here and I'm going to flip it up and you're going to see this here in just a moment. But really, it works for all cars. I also did my R8 and it tracks sales of particular cars. And I'm not sure where they're sourcing their data because I went back in time 5 years on my R8 and it actually will show pictures and things and we'll get into it, but I couldn't find my car. So I don't know. There were a few very similar model, years and options and color and whatever else, but my particular sale was not documented through whatever their sources are. So let's just dive right in, okay? So here's my iPad. I've got it pulled up. The website is classic.com, not classic car, not classics, CLASSIC.com. And it basically pulls up this beautiful page. It's very simple. Talks about all sorts of different cars. It gives some trending cars and whatnot. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time there. But I went ahead and pre-populated a couple of window browser tabs for my Mustang just to kind of show you guys what the power of this tool can do for us. So imagine with me that I'm just some random guy. I need to know I'm going to sell my car, or maybe I inherit the car and I don't really want to keep it, so I want to sell it, but I need to know what it's worth. I can go to this as a resource and I can key in 1968 Ford Mustang right here and hit search. What will come up will be this page here. Okay, so what this is 1,300. It says here 1,368 related listings to 1968 Ford Mustang. All listings for sale and sold. Now, if I'm trying to figure out what these typically sell for, I probably want to hit sold, right? Not that what, and the reason I say that, guys, is because I could list my car for $1 million and it will show up here as for sale for $1 million. That doesn't mean it actually sold for that. That doesn't mean someone's willing to pay that. So if you really want a good concept of what something is worth, see what others have paid for it in the not so distant past. So anyway, there's a wide variety of cars here. There's convertible, fastback, more fastbacks. Here's a coupe, California Special. Here's another fastback, more convertibles, right? So you're gonna see a bit of everything on here. And if you really wanna get into it, you can actually click back up at the top. I'm gonna do this. There was an option for replica. So here, if I scroll back up, you can see that there are keywords. I could have typed in 1968 Ford Mustang replica and up come these. Now my car is a GT500 KR replica. It looks like a Shelby. I've got all the Shelby parts on it. For our purposes today, we're gonna call it a Shelby replica. So now I can scroll down and I'm gonna see only the cars that are filtered to be Shelby replicas. Now I'm gonna leave it on all listings because now there's only 43. So it went from like 1,300 down to 43. So pretty cool. Now I can still look, as you guys know, right here, there's a picture of it, right? It's a convertible, but I have a fastback roof, which probably makes it a little bit more desirable to somebody than a standard convertible. So I wanna take that into account when I'm pricing it. Other things that are, that change the desirability are engine size, maybe the interior, the color of the car, just the overall options, maybe the wheels, whatever, right? Some of those are subjective. I might change the wheels after I buy a car, but other times people want all that stuff already done because they don't necessarily want to buy a project. So looking again at this list here, and I can kind of hold this up a little higher maybe, if I can get a good grip on it. All right, so if I hold this up higher, now I can see there's a bunch of different Eleanor replicas, right? And those are mostly fastbacks. I mean, here's a fastback version of essentially my car, a Shelby Tribute GT500 KR. It's even the same color, probably very similar in options. I see the black interior there. This thing is a manual, okay? Mine's an automatic. Now that might change who's buying the car. There's going to be people that, you know, they have to own a manual or they have to own an automatic. So I wouldn't necessarily say price it too different because of that. But let's keep going, right? Another Shelby, Eleanor. This one's a little more modified, but here's another GT, here's a GT350, but a convertible, okay? Oh, I didn't say that. This one was priced at $99,000, and that was the last asking price. It didn't sell for that. That's the asking. Some of these do say sold, right? And these are fastbacks. I see 105, 187. Holy smokes. Sold 150, sold 160, for sale for 80. And right below where it says for sale or sold or whatever it is, it tells you where it's sold. So you can see here that this one right here sold for $148,500 at Barrett-Jackson. Let's keep scrolling, okay? This yellow GT350 convertible, last asking, is still for sale, $69,900. Here's an Eleanor that is also a convertible, last asking $59,000. Some of these even say not sold, right? So that means they were pulled off the market, or maybe they went to eBay or somewhere different, but they're not being tracked by this particular source any longer. We scroll down a little bit further. Here's a 68 convertible that's sold at Mecum. This is another Shelby, it says GT350 on the side of the car there, so it's another replica clone. It's sold in 2021 for $41,800. So now we're getting something, right? I mean, now we're finding a little bit closer where I should price my car if I were to sell it. This 68 convertible, obviously it's white with red. It's a little bit more custom. That's not a factory color or factory option. Red interior. It's sold at Mecum for $93,500. Now I can't tell you, it does say GT500 KR on the side, but what's funny is it has a 67 Eleanor front end. It's got Eleanor side skirts and a side exit exhaust is what it looks like. So it's a 68 car, and that's probably what it says on the title, but it's got 67 components to it. Just depends on what you're after. Some guys like the look of the 67, others like the look of the 68. I stayed true. My car is a 68, and I wanted to stay true to that. However, when I was younger, my dream car was a 67 GT500. I really, really wanted an Eleanor, primarily because of the Gone in 60 Seconds movie. And I would have been thrilled with a factory Shelby, but at the same time, I really liked the look of the Eleanor. It looked a little more aggressive. It's got kind of those fender flares. It's got the bump in the hood. It's got the cooler looking front end, sequential taillights, all those things. And anyway, I stayed true to my car being a 68, so I went with the 68 Shelby body kit. We'll keep moving. Here's a 68 not sold, 68, again, fastbacks, not sold. This one didn't sell for $52,000. That's shocking. But if you look at the timing, it was the summer of 19. So it was pre-COVID. Maybe cars weren't selling quite as hot back then. And now we're getting even farther back into history. Another yellow convertible GT350. It's sold at Barrett-Jackson for $49,500. Okay. Here's another fastback replica, $50,000. It's sold. And then we come down here and we get to a coupe. This is kind of an interesting one. This is a coupe painted exactly like my car, right? Acapulco blue, white stripes, GT500 or 350 front end. The whole front clip is Shelby stuff. But it didn't sell at Mecum in December of 16. It reached $23,000 and didn't sell. They did it again a month later. In January, it sold at Mecum for 28. Kind of cool. So you guys get the idea. That's sort of how it works. You can keep scrolling and you can go page by page by page. Again, there's only 2 pages of the replica stuff. I'm not going to bore you with that, but pretty interesting source, right? So you can actually get some pricing and figure things out. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you guys is the historical numbers. And this is where I kind of geek out because this is my wheelhouse. This is kind of like what I do for a living. So to me, getting into the numbers was super fascinating. So now you can look at all the cars that are, again, all the listed cars that are for sale. If we go back up to the top, it scrolled down when I was lifting the iPad up, so I apologize. But this is the chart I really wanted to show you guys, and you can kind of see all the dots, right? Now, all the dots represent whatever it is. So the green are sold cars. Red is a high bid but didn't sell. Black is currently still for sale, so you're gonna see those kind of out this way, right? And then the gray is the last asking price. So there's a bunch on there that had last asking prices that must not have sold and are no longer on the market. And then the blue line is the average sale, which is a moving target, right? Because they just average the values of what's sold. So obviously there's a few outliers. And what I would tell you is everything above the line is going to be your high-end frame-off restoration that's likely a show car, trailer queen, something like that. Everything below the line is going to be maybe a non-restored original or an older restoration, or maybe it's still a project, right? It doesn't have to be a done car running and driving. That's just kind of what they're showing you here. But when I say outlier, there's a couple that I wanted to bring to your attention. So you're gonna see right here, and this was earlier this year, this green dot. If I click on that, it tells me that on Hemmings, this red convertible car sold, okay? Sold for $5,500. Now that's the deal of the year. I have not seen a 60 anything, 68 was this one. I haven't seen a 60s Mustang sell, and I can't tell, it doesn't tell me running and driving. It looks pretty beat up, but it looks like it's complete for $5,500. I mean, I bought my car literally 13 or 14 years ago, and I think I paid $4,500 or $5,000, and it was a rusty bucket. And so anyway, so this guy, I would tell you, this guy got a pretty good deal. And the unfortunate thing about these outliers is they change the average dramatically. So by having one car sell so cheap, it brings the average price down across the board. And then on the flip side of that, we can also see that there are several that sell between 80 and 100,000. And 22, 23 was obviously a hot year for some of these high-end cars. But you're gonna see here, like for example, this, I mean, that's beautiful. It's a custom GT350 or 500, just like mine, GT500. It sold in Mecum in Orlando for $93,500. Now, I don't know, it does say it's been modified, so I don't know if that means, maybe it's got a 289 or a 302, or it could have a 428, 427, 429, who even knows? Beautiful looking car, and it's probably a turnkey done classic that you can enjoy today. So that one sold for nearly 100 grand. But from the standpoint of figuring out how to price my car, right? Again, we're using that as the example. I can see here that in the last, this is over 5 years, okay? The lowest sales, the one I just showed you, 5,500. The highest sales, the other one I just showed you at 93.5. The most recent car that it's tracking that sold was 33,000. And so the average sale price is 37.1. And this is for Mustang convertibles only. So I was able to filter it down to 67, 68, because they're both the first generations, but with this particular body style, and specifically convertibles. If I changed it to coupes, that average price would be down. If I switched it to fastback, that average price would be up. Now, again, I'm not trying to say my car is a fastback because it is not, but people who like the fluidity, I suppose is maybe the right word, someone who wants the best of both worlds. They want to be able to drive it around with the top down, right? But also when the top is up, want it to look like a fastback. There's definitely a demand and a premium I could charge for my car if I chose to sell it because of that top. And I've seen 67, 68 cars with these removable fastback tops on eBay. And generally they're priced anywhere from 50 to 100 grand. And they sell for that. So I would put it up against other cars that maybe are similar in color or similar in, whatever, well, the state of repair, right? My car runs and drives. It still needs a little bit of an alignment. It still wants to wobble a little bit on the road. I did put a brand new steering box and control arms and all that stuff in there, tie rods, but it still wobbles a little bit. It just shakes, a little bit. It wants to pull one way or the other as soon as I hit 40 miles an hour. So today I wouldn't go on a road trip in this car. I couldn't put it on the highway and feel safe in it. So that I would need to price in, right? I couldn't sell it for $100,000 and the buyer would expect it to be in perfect condition if I'm trying to get that kind of money for it. So the long and short of it is my car an average car at $37,000? Maybe. Again, I'm not trying to sell my car, so I'm not really too worried about what my car is valued at. But what I would tell you is for $37,000, you probably couldn't build a car like mine. I mean, looking at this, buying it, doing all the repairs, rebuilding the engine, literally turning every nut and bolt, making it new, redoing all the interior, body work, paint, whatever, all that stuff, you probably couldn't build this car for under 50 or 60 grand today. And that's the truth, So for someone to come along and buy it, they should expect to pay something close to that, maybe a hair less, right? I mean, you don't build these cars to make money on them unless you're doing all the labor yourself, you're doing all the repairs yourself, you're getting a screaming deal on these parts. I never built this car with the intent of flipping it. I'll use the Eclipse as my opposite example, right? I've budget built that thing because I'm giving it to my daughter. She doesn't need a car that I've put 10 grand or more into. The Challenger, if we go back in time a little bit, right? That Challenger, I made money on it. I bought it, I fixed several things, added a few things to my own liking, and then sold it for a profit. And so, I've done that time and time again where I've been able to do all the work myself, or some things I'll farm out, but I can do as much of it as I can myself to save money and then find the best deals I can on the parts and end up building a really nice car on a pretty tight budget. And that works. You can do it if you're patient and all that stuff. But again, I didn't build that Mustang to sell it. I didn't. And so when I need to put a dollar amount on it someday, right? When I talk to my insurance guy and he's like, what's replacement value of that car? I shoot high, you guys. Because if it were to get wrecked, I'm not going to build another one. I'd want to go on here and find one that's somewhat similar and somewhat close and just buy it, right? And that's how insurance works. They're not going to give me $60,000 for me to go buy a $5,000 car and then rebuild it from nothing. And so, having a value, having an idea of what your stuff is worth is really, really cool. Again, like I said, I did put my R8 through the same website and, it came back roughly what I paid for it, essentially. So again, that kind of verifies and validates, the money that I put into that thing, I could definitely get out if I needed to sell it. So that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below, but most importantly, remember, may every investment you make be a good one. Till next time.